Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every generation where heaven calls not with noise, but with a knowing, a holy stirring, a divine alert that awakens those chosen for something far greater than themselves. July 10, 2025 is not just another date on the calendar. It is not a random moment in time. It is an appointed day, a prophetic pivot, and a spiritual checkpoint for those who have been set apart, those who are called the chosen. You are not listening to this by accident. You were not born randomly into your generation. The battles you've faced, the valleys you've walked, and the fires you've endured were not meaningless. Every tear, every trial, every hidden sacrifice has been building toward this moment. God has been preparing you, molding you, refining you not to fit in, but to stand out, not to survive, but to reign, not to blend into the crowd, but to rise from among them, clothed in power, covered in purpose, and backed by the authority of heaven. This message is not for everyone. It is for the remnant. It is for those who refused to give up when everything around them was falling apart. It is for those who have been misunderstood, overlooked, and counted out, yet still pressed on, believing that God was not done with them yet. If you felt that deep, burning sense that something is coming, that your time is near, then hear me clearly. July 10, 2025 is the beginning of your divine unveiling. The season of hiding is over. The time of obscurity is ending. What God has been doing in secret, He is about to reveal in public, but only the prepared will walk into it. Only the faithful will receive the fullness. Only the disciplined will be trusted with destiny. This is why we are gathered now, to prepare, to align, to consecrate ourselves for what is to come. Because when the trumpet sounds spiritually or literally, it will be too late to start preparing. The oil in your lamp must be full before the bridegroom comes. The armor must be worn before the battle begins. And your ears must be trained before the command is given. July 10 is not a warning, it's an announcement. God is saying, get ready because I'm about to do something in the earth, and I'm looking for those who are ready to carry it. So, chosen one, this is your call to attention. This is your wake-up call. This is your confirmation. You've been praying for a sign, asking for a word, searching for clarity, and here it is. Not in fear, but in power. Not in panic, but in purpose. Now is the time. Heaven is watching. Hell is trembling, and the earth is groaning for the manifestation of the sons and daughters of God. Are you ready? The shift is coming, and not just any shift, but a divine repositioning that will redraw the lines of influence, authority, and spiritual access. July 10, 2025 marks a line in the sand where the chosen must no longer linger in yesterday's season. There's no room for partial obedience, no time for second guessing, and no excuse left for delay. God is moving forward, and He's calling His people to come out from what was and step into what is becoming. There are moments in history when God disrupts the rhythm of the natural to introduce the pulse of the divine. These moments are not announced through headlines or trending topics. They are announced in the Spirit. They are revealed to those who walk closely with God. The chosen must understand this is not about being busy with spiritual activity, but about being synchronized with divine movement. You can be in church and miss the cloud. You can be around the ark and still not hear God. That's why this shift requires separation. Separation from distractions, separation from what's familiar but no longer fruitful. Separation from people, patterns, and places that God once allowed, but is now calling you out of. You see, stepping out of the old season is not just about leaving behind sin. It's about leaving behind anything that no longer carries God's presence for your journey ahead. God told Abraham to leave his father's house, his country, and his kindred not because they were evil, but because they were not part of the next. God is not simply calling the chosen away from what is bad. He's calling them away from what is outdated. There's a difference. Some of you are trying to bring expired friendships into a new dimension. Others are clinging to old mindsets, war, knout habits, and spiritual routines that no longer produce fresh oil. This shift is going to cost you comfort, but comfort is the enemy of calling. If you're still seeking convenience, you're not ready for commissioning. You cannot be crowned and coddled at the same time. The old season gave you just enough provision to survive, enough clarity to function, enough fire to endure. But the new season is about abundance, authority, and advancement, and God cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. That's why some of you feel like everything is breaking, because it is. God is breaking the shell of the former, so he can birth the fullness of what's next. The chosen must discern the exit signs in this hour. God has been quietly closing doors. He's been allowing disconnection, disappointment, and divine disruption not to harm you, but to help you move. Some of the people who left you were God's mercy. Some of the things that didn't work out were God's protection. He is rescuing you from the detour of settling. There are assignments that have expired, battles that no longer belong to you, and conversations you're not supposed to revisit. When the shift comes, your yes must be louder than your why. Think of Lot's wife. She was physically leaving Sodom, but her heart was still tied to it. She looked back and became a monument instead of a movement. God is warning his people, if you look back, you'll get stuck. There's no grace for nostalgia in this season. You must be delivered from your past, even if it was good. Israel cried for Egypt not because Egypt was holy, but because it was familiar. Don't let your craving for comfort become a covenant with captivity. God is releasing fresh instructions, and with those instructions comes the need for immediate response. In the old season, you could delay. You could pray about it, think about it, ask 10 people for confirmation. But not anymore. The shift demands acceleration. Heaven is not waiting for you to get it together. Heaven is moving, and if you're not in motion, you'll miss the moment. Some doors are only open while you're walking. Some miracles are only released as you go. To step out of the old season is to change your posture. You cannot carry the same attitude, the same prayer life, the same level of faith. God is requiring a deeper level of obedience, surrender, and focus. You will not conquer Canaan with a wilderness mentality. You cannot fight the giants of promise with the same mindset you used to collect manna. The way you operated in the wilderness won't work in the land of milk and honey. Maturity is no longer optional. You must grow or you will groan. The enemy knows this. That's why he's trying to distract the chosen right now. He's not just sending temptation, he's sending delay, discouragement, doubt, and disorientation. If he can't make you turn around, he'll try to make you sit down. But hear me, sitting still in a season of movement is spiritual disobedience. You must shake off the dust, shake off the weariness, shake off the heaviness. God is igniting those who are willing to burn again. This is also a season of pruning. Don't resist it. Every branch that bears fruit, the Father prunes it not to punish it, but to make it more fruitful. If you feel like you're losing things left and right, it might be God trimming you for elevation. You cannot carry extra weight into your next dimension. That includes emotional baggage, spiritual laziness, and relational toxicity. You're not being cut down, you're being cut back, so you can launch forward. Some of you are called to build in this new season. Businesses, ministries, families, movements. But you've been trying to build with old blueprints. Hear the Spirit clearly. Burn the old plans. What worked before will not work now. God is giving new strategies. He is raising up architects of the Spirit builders who hear heaven, not just follow trends. You must seek him daily. You must be tuned in to the whispers of the Holy Ghost. The shift cannot be navigated through logic alone. It requires revelation, precision, and divine intimacy. The chosen are also being called to guard their gates. In this new season, what you allow into your eyes, ears, and heart will either accelerate or abort what God is doing in you. You can't watch what you used to watch. You can't listen to the noise of carnal voices. You can't entertain gossip, offense, or division. Holiness is no longer a suggestion, it is a shield. Consecration is not optional. There are blessings coming that will only rest on clean hands and pure hearts. God is forming a new wineskin, a new vessel, a new identity in you. This shift is transforming how you speak, how you walk, how you respond. You will not be known by what you were, but by what He is making you into. The world will be shocked. People who thought they knew you will be silenced, because when the chosen step into alignment, God puts His glory on them in such a way that explanations are no longer needed. Results speak louder than history, so let it go. Lay it down, break the soul ties, walk away from what God has already left. Don't cry over the things He's calling you out of. Don't fight to keep what heaven is shaking off. The shift is already here. It's not coming, it's now. The only question is, are you willing to move? Divine instructions are not suggestions. They are heaven's strategies, sent in perfect timing, crafted for precise impact. And when they come, the response must be immediate. Delayed obedience in this hour is disobedience. The chosen are not just being called to obey, they are being summoned to obey instantly, without hesitation, without debate, without double checking with the opinions of man. July 10, 2025 is not just a date to mark. It is a divine checkpoint for those who will move at the speed of the Spirit. Throughout the Bible, every major shift was preceded by a command from God, a specific instruction that had to be followed exactly and immediately. When Noah received the word to build the ark, he didn't negotiate the size. He didn't wait for a second confirmation. He obeyed because the flood would not wait. When Abraham was told to leave his father's house, he didn't ask for a 5-year transition plan. He moved because destiny is time sensitive. Likewise, the chosen must understand that divine instructions are timed. They come with a window. They carry a shelf life. If you miss the window, the favor attached to that instruction will close with it. There are opportunities that don't repeat. There are doors that only open while you're walking. If you hesitate, you disqualify yourself from what could have been yours. We are living in a season where obedience will be the currency of elevation. Not talent, not charisma, not connections. God is promoting those who obey not later, not partially, but completely and immediately. The Spirit is not looking for gifted people. He is looking for available people. People who don't need all the details, but just need a word. People who don't wait for everyone to agree, but move when God speaks. People who understand that heaven doesn't operate on committee votes. Immediate obedience is the fruit of intimacy. You can only move that fast when you know the voice speaking. This is why the enemy attacks your time with God, not because he fears your activity, but because he fears your discernment. He knows that if you can't recognize God's whisper, you will always hesitate at his command. The devil isn't just trying to tempt you, he's trying to dull you. A dulled spirit cannot perceive urgency. It delays in the name of caution and disguises fear as wisdom. Look at the Israelites in the wilderness. God told them to move when the cloud moved and to stay when it stayed. They didn't get a map or a long explanation, just an instruction. Those who disobeyed didn't just delay, they died. That's how serious this is. Obedience is life or death in the realm of calling. And in this prophetic hour, your assignment may require action that makes no earthly sense. You may have to leave jobs, cities, churches, relationships, not because they are sinful, but because they are not aligned with your next. When God tells you to move, you must resist the urge to analyze. Obedience is not analysis. Obedience is surrender. You don't need to understand the outcome to take the first step. God didn't ask Moses to part the sea, he told him to stretch his staff. The miracle was tied to movement. And if Moses had waited to see the water split before obeying, Israel would have been slaughtered on the shore. There is an urgency in the Spirit right now for the chosen to stop overthinking and start obeying. The time for talking about what God told you to do is over. The season of praying about what He already confirmed is ending. You don't need another prophetic word. You don't need another dream. You don't need another sign. You already know what to do. You're just scared of what it will cost. Yes, obedience will cost you. It will cost comfort. It will cost popularity. It will cost control. But the price of obedience is never greater than the reward of obedience. God never calls you out without preparing something better ahead. The problem is, we often want the provision before the motion, but provision follows obedience, not the other way around. You won't see the ram in the bush until you've climbed the mountain in faith. Some of you are holding on to things God told you to let go of. Relationships, jobs, financial habits, even personal dreams. And the reason you're not seeing breakthrough is because you haven't released what's in your hand. You're asking God to speak again, but He's silent not because He's far, but because He's waiting for your last yes. Heaven does not waste breath on those who ignore divine direction. If God is quiet, revisit the last instruction. Your future is locked in your obedience. The weight of this hour requires swift, unshakable response. Imagine if Joseph had delayed obeying the angel's command to flee to Egypt with Mary and Jesus. The enemy was already on the move, and if Joseph had waited a day, the child would have been lost. That is the level of urgency we're dealing with. Delayed obedience can lead to destroyed destiny. You cannot afford to hesitate when the Spirit speaks. This obedience must also be complete. Partial obedience is rebellion in disguise. Saul obeyed God mostly but spared what God told him to destroy, and for that he lost the kingdom. God doesn't bless what you almost obey. He's not impressed by your percentage. He requires total trust even when the path is unfamiliar. You don't get to choose which part of the word you follow. It's all or nothing in this hour. Some instructions will offend your logic. Others will offend your pride. Some will offend your schedule. That's the point. Obedience is the crucifixion of self-will. It is the declaration that God is in charge, not your emotions, not your plans, not your fears. The chosen must become addicted to God's voice and allergic to delay. You must train your spirit to respond without dragging your feet, and this obedience will not always come with applause. In fact, many times it will come with resistance. When Noah built the ark, they mocked him until the rain came. When Abraham left his homeland, there were no farewell parades. When Jesus obeyed unto death, there was no crowd cheering him on. Obedience is often lonely, but it is in that lonely place that heaven backs you with its full weight. God will never abandon an obedient servant. Even when people leave, even when resources shrink, even when questions linger, obedience secures His presence. God is looking for swift responders, those who don't have to be convinced, those who say, "Yes, Lord," and then figure it out while moving. The longer you wait, the heavier the burden becomes. But when you move at God's pace, grace meets you. The chosen must become military, minded in the Spirit, trained to respond at the voice of the commander. The days of casual Christianity are over. Radical obedience is the new normal. This is also a season of unusual instructions. God may ask you to do what no one around you is doing. He may call you to build something no one understands. He may lead you into a realm where there is no blueprint, only faith. But don't fear the unknown. If the instruction came from Him, the outcome is in His hands. Your job is not to control the outcome. Your job is to walk in the Word. And remember this, obedience multiplies. Every act of obedience plants a seed, and those seeds grow into harvests of favor, influence, and legacy. Your yes today opens doors for your children tomorrow. Your surrender now breaks curses, unlocks blessings, and shifts bloodlines. The weight of your obedience is eternal. You are not just obeying for yourself, you're obeying for generations. So do it. Go where he says go. Say what he says say. Give what he says give. End what he says end. Begin what he says begin. Do it immediately. Do it fully. Do it with joy. The chosen are rising not because they're qualified, but because they're obedient. Heaven backs those who move at God's command. This is a season of separation. A holy distinction is being made, not by human preference, but by divine judgment. God is not asking permission, he is moving with fire and precision, dividing what looks similar on the surface, but carries very different destinies underneath. The wheat and the tares have grown side by side, and for a time they appeared indistinguishable. But the hour has come where the harvest reveals the truth. The separating hand of God is at work, and the chosen must not resist it. Wheat and tares can look identical in the early stages of growth. They both sprout, they both stretch upward, they both sway in the same wind. But their roots tell the real story. Wheat is grounded in humility, while tares root themselves in pride. Wheat bends when it's mature, it bows under the weight of its fruit. Tares stand stiff, refusing to yield. The Spirit is not fooled by appearances. He is examining the posture of the heart, and in this hour, those who walk in pretense will be exposed by pressure. Many have wondered why God has allowed certain relationships, ministries, or movements to remain for so long. Why did the wicked prosper? Why did the false have influence? But the answer is found in the patience of the Lord. In Matthew 13, the master told the servants, "Let both grow together until the harvest." That means God allowed the mixture so that no innocent wheat would be accidentally pulled up in zeal. But now the harvest is here, and the time for tolerating confusion is over. Separation is not rejection, it is protection. God is not being harsh when he removes people from your life. He's being merciful. You prayed for clarity, and he answered with disconnection. Some of you didn't know the conversations happening behind your back, the curses spoken over your calling, or the envy masked in flattery. But God saw it, and he's not just exposing it, he's extracting it. The tares cannot go with you into the next season because they were never assigned to your harvest. This process is painful, yes, because tares don't just grow around you, they often grow with you. You shared memories, prayers, tears, and time with them. You thought they were wheat. You trusted their voice, but God is breaking soul ties for your survival. He is severing what would have strangled your fruit. The tares were fine when you were hidden, but now that you're stepping into visibility, they threaten your purity. If you hold on to them, you risk corruption. This separation is not optional, it is surgical. Even Jesus had to separate. He ministered to crowds but revealed himself to 12, and even among the 12 he knew Judas was a tare, but he didn't stop the plan. The separation had to come through betrayal. Understand this. Some of the betrayals you faced were allowed by God not to break you, but to bring the line of distinction into the light. God uses the loyalty of the wheat and the deception of the tares to fulfill his word. Stop mourning over what left. Start discerning what's being purified. The chosen are being called to release their attachment to the field. You are not responsible for what God is pulling out. Your assignment is not to rescue every person who once walked with you. In this hour, false loyalty can become spiritual bondage. You cannot be loyal to tares without offending the Spirit. Some relationships are not eternal, they were seasonal, and when the season ends, holding on becomes rebellion. God is separating not just people, but motives. There are ministries that look anointed, but are built on ambition. There are platforms that sound holy, but are fueled by envy. There are prayers that seem passionate, but are rooted in self-glory. The fire of separation is exposing what man cannot see. and the chosen must allow God to examine them first. You must be willing to say, Lord, if there is anything in me that is a tear, burn it out, because separation begins within. This is not the hour to compare yourself to others. Wheat does not watch the tares, it focuses on growing. God is not asking you to judge other people's soil. He is asking you to keep your own heart pure. There's a temptation in separation to become self-righteous, but remember, wheat bows, it does not boast, it does not gloat when others fall. The moment you become proud of your position, you start walking in the spirit of a tare. Let this separation cleanse your perspective. Stop chasing every opportunity. Stop trying to be accepted by everyone. Some doors are closing because they lead to tares. Some invitations are being blocked because they would entangle you in the wrong field. Trust the hand of the harvester. He knows what he's doing. He's not just removing people, he's realigning your purpose. And for those who feel alone in this separation, know this. The field may feel emptier, but the fruit will be purer. God is making space for new connections, kingdom alliances, divine alignments, people who are wheat, humble, fruitful, tested, and loyal. You're not losing, you're being refined. And those who remain with you after the fire will be those ordained to carry the weight of what's coming next. There's a remnant rising out of this separation, not perfect, but purified, not loud, but effective, not popular, but powerful. These are the ones God is marking in this hour. They have no agenda but His. No identity but what He gave, no desire but His glory. They will rebuild altars, restore truth, and reignite the fear of the Lord in a generation that lost its reverence. But to walk in that authority, they must be willing to let go of what is being uprooted. Don't resist the hand of separation. Don't grieve what God is pruning. Don't try to replant what heaven has pulled out. Some friendships will fade. Some names will fall away. Some familiar places will lose their flavor. Don't panic its prophecy. The harvest always requires shaking. The threshing floor is a violent place, but it reveals what's genuine. God is threshing His people. He's breaking the husk off the kernel. He's releasing what's real from what was just covering. This is not the enemy's attack. This is heaven's decision. You prayed for breakthrough, and this is how it comes. Not always in blessings, but in boundaries. Not always in increase, but in isolation. And just like Gideon's army had to be reduced before the victory came, so God is reducing your circle, refining your focus, and reestablishing your authority. What you're losing now will be nothing compared to what you're about to gain. Let this truth anchor you. The wheat will shine, the harvest will come, and what God has planted in you no tear can choke, no betrayal can uproot, no delay can deny. The separation is not just about getting rid of what's false, it's about revealing what's true. The wheat is coming forth with weight, maturity, and purity, and the Father is preparing to gather His own into a place of glory. So don't resist it, embrace it, let the shaking happen, let the pruning cut, let the separation finish its work, because when it's over, the chosen will be left standing bowed in humility, burning with oil, and ready to bring in the end time harvest with clean hands and a pure heart. There comes a moment in every divine timeline when silence becomes disobedience, a moment when hidden potential must erupt into visible power. That moment has arrived. For too long, the chosen have lived beneath their voice, beneath their authority, beneath their assignment. But heaven is sounding the trumpet. The time to roar has come. No more hiding, no more apologizing for your fire, no more toning down your truth, no more shrinking to fit comfort zones God never called you to. The lion does not ask permission to roar. It roars because it was born to. It is not aggressive, it is authentic. Likewise, the chosen are being awakened to their true spiritual posture. This is not the season to be passive or polite with darkness. This is not the hour to whisper truth in rooms that need a shaking. God is placing holy boldness on the tongues of those who have been quiet for too long. Many of you have felt the stirring for months, even years. You've known deep down that there is more to speak, more to declare, more to do. You've walked in environments where your spirit was stirred, but your mouth was shut. You've sat in circles that dulled your anointing in the name of humility. But now God is breaking the muzzle, He is tearing off the veil, and He is saying, "Roar, my child, roar." To roar is to release your voice in full volume, unfiltered, unashamed, and unafraid. It is not simply shouting. It is declaring what heaven is saying with conviction, precision, and power. The enemy has tried to silence the chosen through fear, rejection, trauma, and spiritual manipulation. He has told you that speaking boldly would make you arrogant, divisive, or dangerous. And you believed it, so you hid. But hiding is no longer safe. The cave you once found shelter in is now a prison. The places you ran to for cover have become ceilings to your calling, and God is saying, "Come out of the cave like Elijah, come out of the wilderness like John, come out of the shadows like Esther." Your roar is not a threat, it's a weapon. And if you don't use it, the darkness will continue to dominate where you are called to bring light. Think of Moses. When he first stepped into leadership, he was insecure, he stuttered, he feared rejection. But God didn't change Moses' assignment because of his fears. He empowered him in spite of them. Moses had to learn how to speak anyway, and so must you. The time to be timid is over. The assignment you carry requires volume. You cannot transform what you're too afraid to confront. You cannot lead people you're too scared to offend. The roar is not just about preaching, it's about posture. It's about walking into rooms with the authority of someone who's been with God. It's about declaring truth even when it's unpopular. It's about saying no when compromise calls. It's about standing tall in environments that try to break your back. The roar is about embodying the fire of the Spirit in everything you do. This is why the enemy has attacked your confidence, because he knows that a roaring chosen one is a terror to the kingdom of darkness. He knows that once you find your voice, you will set